All right, so it's 3:30 on Tuesday afternoon. Welcome everybody to our next installment of Tuesday Tech Talks. I'm Clint Stevens from Southwest Educational Development Center in Cedar City, and we are so lucky today to have my brother from another mother, Jared Covili. We get confused for each other sometimes, and it's always, he's the better looking one. So uh, he's our trainer from UEN, works all over the state. We're lucky enough to work together on the USET board and some other things. So happy to have you here, Jared. I appreciate you taking the time to come and share with us on Google and Classroom or Google Canvas. And we also have Chris Hott here. She wants to turn on her camera for a second. She's the SEDC region Canvas guru. And so if Jared's kind of knows how things work on a state level, and if there's anything that's different in our region, Chris will jump in and correct him, I'm sure. So hopefully he's okay with that. So
is that okay, Jared?
I am very used to being corrected.
All right, so I'll turn the time over to Jared. Appreciate you. Go for it.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Clint. It's very easy to tell Clint and me apart. I know some people have a struggle sometimes, but my beard's white and Clint's is dark, and I have a full beard.
Mine's getting wider and wider all the time.
Yeah. So anyway,
but it's good. Full beard. So.
Yeah, I did that just so that we could keep each other straight.
I appreciate you taking it for the team. I appreciate it.
Well, it's good to be with you today. As Clint mentioned, today we're going to be talking about how you can integrate Google and Canvas maybe a little bit more effectively, and some of the features that they have to help you do that. So I'm just going to start by sharing a couple things with you. Give me just 1 second here. I've got a slide deck that I will be sharing. And Clint, just for you, I'll put this in the chat.
Thank you.
Just so that you can share this out with folks.
I'll do that.
In a Bitly or whatever you want to use.
Yes, I'll shorten it up.
But I'll be going through and kind of sharing content from this document. But I also wanted to share with you one of the roles that I play at the Utah Education Network is that I help facilitate implementing Google in a variety of ways. And so one of the tools that we have now on the UEN website, just launched maybe about a month and a half ago, is the Google Educator page on our site. So here I'm going to be sharing with you different resources related to Google in the classroom, and things that you can participate in, and things that are available to you. I just sent in some updates for this that I was hoping would be available for you tonight, but they'll probably be there tomorrow. One thing that I just got this week from Google, just wanted to make you aware of, is there's going to be a video series sponsored by Google that will be held at the end of February, starting, I think, on February 25th. Let me just pull this up real quick and I'll show this to you so you can see it. There's going to be something called the Google for Educator Product Training Series. Now, some of these topics that they'll have may be a little bit more district or region level, like things like G Suite Enterprise, but there's a lot of good things that you can find out about. For example, on the 25th of February, there's a deep dive on teaching and learning updates from Google. They have some content about using Chromebooks, content about how to use group collaboration. As we go down, A+ Google Classroom features, and just all kinds of things that maybe you could implement in your building or with the folks that you work with. So just free for you. You can register, and Clint, that link should be posted on that uen.org/Google, but just in case,
I just put that in the chat. So
just so that folks, hopefully you can find that if that's something you want to participate in. They said that if you register for this, that you can also get access to all of the archives as well. So even if you miss one live, or it's during your classroom day, you can get access to it. You can get access to it later. Okay. Well, just wanted to share that with you. And beyond that, maybe one more little thing that I want to share with you. This gives you a lot of information about the Google certification programs. I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but there are actually several different levels of Google certification. Typical ones that a lot of classroom teachers do to kind of get started are the level 1 and level 2 classes. But you can see they've got a brand new program called the Google Certified Coach. Maybe that would be more at something at the district level that people would engage in, but there's a bunch of these different things that you can participate in. So I wanted to make sure I shared that with you. Now, let's get into our discussion for today. Let's see here. I want to get into this slide deck that I brought. Great. And we're going to show this. Whoops.
Hit escape and then go full screen if you want to do a full screen.
I think I'm actually okay to do it this way. Yeah. I don't know. This is big enough so you guys can all see it.
Yeah, we can see it.
I'm kind of curious if you wouldn't mind sharing in the chat. So a lot of you in this region and across Southern Utah are using Canvas as your learning management tool. And I know many of you are in Google districts. Would you just take a moment and just pop into the chat and maybe share what's one of the ways that you're integrating Google in your Canvas classroom? And you can just share either a couple of words or a sentence that maybe tells us how you're implementing these tools together. I know a lot of us are trying to use these. And if you're brand new to this, and that's why you're in this session today, you can share that as well, because we'll hopefully give you some ideas. So Bob's telling us that he incorporates using videos from either YouTube or his Google Drive into Canvas. Dave's mentioning that he uses Google Forms. A lot of us are implementing Google Slides as part of our presentations. And a couple of people are even jumping in and saying that they're integrating Google assignments as part of theirs. So I see Teeples J is saying that that's how they use it.
One sec. I don't know what you mean by.
So that's kind of something that we can see there. So I'm glad to see that there's a lot of different ways that we're doing this. And I think that's kind of a fun part of using Google with Canvas is there's just a lot of different ways you can kind of share and connect. So I'm kind of excited to see all the different ways that people are doing that. Well, let's look at a couple of different tools that you have here. I think the biggest tool that most people integrate with from Google to Canvas is Google Drive. We know that there's a lot of different reasons why we have adopted Google Drive. I think some of the big ones is for collaboration, that we can do things in real time. We can not worry about versions and who owns what and access and all those kinds of things. So it's really nice, especially when our students are working in group projects, to be able to assign a project to a group and be able to see how the group collaborates and works on things in real time. Now, there's a few different things that I'm going to show you today. One thing that I'm just going to start with is making sure that you have your Canvas and Google connected to each other. So I'm going to show that. And I'm going to be jumping out of this slide deck and kind of showing you some of this stuff live, because I think that will help us kind of answer questions. If you have a question, feel free to put it in the chat, or you can turn on your mic and interrupt me at any time. That's great. But I want to show you how you can connect your Google Drive and your Canvas to each other. I want to show you how you can create assignments in Google Drive. And then finally, if there's time at the end, we'll kind of show this tool called the collaborations tool. So I'm going to jump out of our slide deck for a bit. And we're going to jump in and we're going to look at, we're going to go into my Canvas here. So the first thing that I'm going to show you, let's get out of it here, is when you get into Canvas, and maybe I'll go to my actual home page. So I'm here on my dashboard now, and I want to make sure that my Canvas account and my Google account are connected to one another. So the best way to do this is to come up to the top left to that kind of outer bar. And depending on what your instance of Canvas is, it may be a different color than the one that I have. Mine's blue, but it has the very top icon up there is your account. And you want to click on this and you want to go down into the settings. Okay, so I'm going to my account and then I'm going to go into the settings. And most of the time this stuff is kind of happens by default, but just in case yours is not set up this way, I just want you to notice that about a third of the way down the page is something called the web services. And my Google Drive is already registered. If yours is not registered, it will appear on the right column here where it says other services. And so what you want to do is you want to click on that Google Drive and move it over to the registered services. And it will ask you if you want to connect your Google Drive account with your Canvas. Now, the minute that you do that, and you kind of authorize everything, what happens is now You don't have to leave Canvas to be able to access some of your Google files. Let's show you an example of what I'm talking about. So if I come back and I go into one of my courses, and I always go into this one called my playground. As I come in here, you'll see that on the inner menu, kind of that one on the inside left margin of my page, I have a Google Drive option right here. I just want you to see what happens when I click on that. So as I go in and I click on this option, it connects my Google Drive and my Canvas accounts to each other, and I can search for files here. So very quickly, I can see if there's a file that I want to use potentially in a class. So I like these ones called Now You Try It. These are kind of a series of assignments that I created for a class that I teach. And you can see just that quickly, I can go in and I can access and see those files if I need to access them. I don't have to leave Canvas to be able to do that. So that's kind of a nice quick shortcut to be able to look at your files. But that's not really what you're dying to do, right? Is to be able to just to see your files. That doesn't really help you very much. You want to be able to implement your files into your class. And so let's use an example here. Let's say that in my online class today, I want to put a slide deck that I created, and I want it just to be part of the module for today's class. So I'm just going to show you how I would go ahead and do something like that. I'm going to make a brand new module just so that I have something to kind of play with today. And I'm just going to call it my Google Practice just for time's sake.
What are modules in Canvas, Jared?
So modules are your filing cabinet to organize your content into specific units. So instead of having everything just kind of in there all together, you can break things up either thematically or chronologically or however you want. So like generally speaking, when I'm teaching, I put my content in kind of thematically based on what we're working on. So that's how I kind of organize my content. Now, let's say I'm doing this unit on Google and I want to put in a slide deck that I've created. I just want you to see how easy this is to get that content into this module. So once I create the module, over here on the right-hand side, it's got a little plus button and it wants me to add some content. So as I click on this, there are several different options of things that I can add in that top drop-down menu. So we can add things like assignments or pages, but a couple that you may not be as familiar with are these ones down here at the bottom where they're external URLs or external tools. And these will allow me to connect to my Google account. So let's just kind of show this to you. As I click on this external tool option, it comes up with a list of several tools that have already been connected, typically by somebody like Chris Hott or somebody in your building who have gone through and made that connection so that all the teachers in your building can connect things from the Utah's Online Library or Google or Nearpod or different tools like this. And you can see as I scroll down, there are a couple different options right here, one for Google Drive and one for a newer Google Drive LTI 1.3. We're going to show that in just a moment because that's the one that works with Google Assignments. But look at this top one. It says, allows you to pull in documents from your Google Drive to Canvas. So as I select this, you can see that immediately it pulls back up that same list we just saw a moment ago. But now let's say I want to find a PowerPoint I've been working on. I was making a slide deck on communicating with families a little bit ago, a few months ago. And let's say I want to share that. So I just select that. And when I hit submit, it kind of comes back and now it's got a URL to go to that file. And as I hit add item, you can see that that item now is found inside that module. So as a student was clicking on this, when they get to that content, if they click on that page, look what shows up. First thing it does is it just kind of authorizes that first time. Oh, they're asking if I can go full screen. Okay, I can get a little bigger. Sorry about that. We'll go a little bigger. There you go. So you can see here, as I go through and I do that, that's a really easy way for me to put in content from my Google Drive right into my Canvas course and kind of have it organized. There's only one downside, I think, sometimes to just taking a slide deck though and putting it in here, is there isn't a lot of context associated with the slide deck. So when I'm teaching, normally I would give you something to look for when you're going through this slide deck. Or maybe I would point out a couple things to make sure that as we're studying this concept that you want to make sure that you address. So a second way that you can add your content, and again, pretty easy way to do this. I'm just going to kind of show this to you quickly. I'm going to go back to that module view.
While you're getting there, just a side note, Jared and I teach a educational technology endorsement course together. And in that course, we always include the slides embedded, but then we also put a recording of us going through the slides for that context and, those specifics and things like that.
So let's kind of show what our page looks like in that course that Clint's talking about. So instead of us just adding the slide deck and having no context, we go in and we add a page. And I'll just make a new page and I'll call this one my slides. So I just go in there and I create a new page and I call it something, and now it creates this brand new page. There won't be any content on this page. So I'm just going to show you how easy it is to grab my content from Google Drive and put it in here. So I could just paste the URL for that slide deck in there, right? Or I could write and say, click next to see the slides. There's a couple different things I could do. But Google Slides has actually got a pretty neat little option in here that you can use that lets you, sorry, one sec. Google Slides has a pretty neat little option here that lets you kind of embed your content into something like Canvas. So when I go into Google Slides, if I come up to the file menu of a specific slide deck, and I kind of scroll down here to an option that says publish to the web. This will give me some code that lets me embed this. Now, I know sometimes that concept of embed code is kind of scary, and I don't blame you, but I don't really need to know what all of this means. I just need to know that it's going to take my slide deck from Google Drive and embed it on my page, okay? So I'm going to say, yes, I want that. Now it looks like I'm already publishing this because I'm sharing it with you guys today, but normally it would say publish to web. Mine says stop publishing because I've already done it, but I'm just going to copy this code, okay? And when I come back into Canvas, now I don't want to just paste this in here because look, all that does is paste code, and that's kind of scary and that doesn't really do much. But I want to show you a little trick that they just put into the new editor of Canvas here. So this new rich text editor here. Look at the little icons that kind of go above your text box there. The very last one on the right here is a little cloud icon. And as I click on this, it asks me for that very embed code that I've already copied. So I just go over there and I paste that. And when I hit submit, look what it does. It just takes that slide deck and it puts it right in there. Now, again, the reason why this is nice for me is now I can come in here and I can type my context, right? So I can provide instructions of what I want my students to do, what I want them to look for as they kind of go through this slide deck. So I can type that in there. As Clint said, maybe you film yourself at one point, maybe going through the slides with them, and you can put that in there as well. So you can provide a lot more information.
I share a quick pro tip before you leave that page.
Yeah, go ahead, Clint.
In this new editor interface, on the very far right underneath the content box, there's a little icon that looks like an ice cube tray. If you click and drag that down, far right, very most right one where you are. If you drag that down, look what happens. Buys you a little bit more editing room on those pages. I know it seems like you're trying to look through a blinder or something sometimes. So you may not ever know what that is, but that opens up that area.
And as long as we're sharing tips, Clint told you I might do this. So what we've actually done, Jared, in our Canvas instances, and I know we've got some Millard folks here, is in that rich content editor, if you look, you will see a the Google Drive emblem, and all you have to do is click on that and it will go get that content out of your drive. You don't have to copy the embed code or click on the
Oh my
cloud.
goodness.
You can just click on the Google Drive icon and it puts it right in there just the same way. So right up
Super
next
slick.
to the
Plug.
socket,
Yeah, the plug.
yeah, then there's the Google Drive.
So they're saying right up here
Yeah.
next to this little plugin, you'll see the little symbol for Google Drive, and you can do that kind of automatically.
Yep, just click on the Google Drive and it'll link to your drive and let you go find it in your drive, and you could either embed it or link it. You click that and it's in. So
Really slick.
yeah, it is. But one thing I really do love about this is you don't have to go back to Canvas and change it. So if you want to change the content, like maybe you're doing writing prompts and you want to add to it every day, all you have to do is go to your Google Drive and add more content, and it refreshes and populates it, puts it everywhere for everybody to see.
And I
the
will say
slides in Canvas.
that is a great tip right there that Chris is giving you, because a lot of times we embed something and then a few days later maybe we make changes to it and we think, oh well, now I've got to go put that back into Canvas with the changes. And the honest answer is you don't. They're connected to each other. So any changes you make in Google are going to reflect in Canvas. So that's really nice. Well, let's get in. I know we're going to finish up here in 10 minutes, so I want to show you probably the biggest thing that we want to show you today is this idea of creating an assignment using a new what's called Google Assignments tool. Now, I just want to show you, I'm going to give you just one little show, kind of behind the scenes look at where this came from. So I mentioned earlier, there's these applications that Google or that Canvas allows you to plug in, and you're like somebody like Chris has probably plugged these in. I'm going to click on settings to show you what they look like. We'll leave this page. We're not worried about that. So they're called apps and they're found in your settings. They're usually already turned on. Like I say, if I just search for the one that says Google on it, I just want to show you, this kind of gives you a little idea of how this works. So you can see here, it's called the Google Apps application. And that's what Chris is talking about. She turned that on and it got sent out to all the teachers in the region. And so that's how the little Google Drive image shows up. But it shows you right here some of the things that you can do with this. It says you can attach Google Drive files. You can embed Google Drive files. That's what Chris just told us. We can add Drive files to Canvas modules. That's what I just showed you. And the last thing here is this concept of the Google Assignments LTI. And I'm just going to show you, it says here, Google Docs as assignments. Students can submit their Google Docs as assignments, and you can use a Google Doc that you've created previously to create it as an assignment. The neat part about this is it will automatically send a copy to every student that's assigned that assignment. And then you can use that, Google Assignments tool to actually grade those. So let's get in and show that to you, because I think that's the big thing that a lot of us want to see. So I'm just going to go into my assignments here. I'm going to make a little sample assignment. We're just going to play with this just for a second. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to click the plus assignment button because I want to make a new assignment. And, you know, normally we'd come up here and we'd call this our Google assignment, right? Okay. And then we would come in here, we type some instructions. Be sure to do blah, blah, blah. Okay. Now, normally I would write all my assignment instructions in this box, okay? But one of the things that we're talking about is that we've got our Google connected. So I've already got a handout that already has this assignment as part of it. And I want to assign that to every one of my students. So I'm just going to scroll down just a little bit. And we're pretty comfortable with a lot of this stuff, like assigning points and groups and how we're going to grade it. This is the part I want to show you down here, though. So it's that submission type. Now, normally, our submission is just an online submission. And our students, they type something and then they submit it. Okay, but like I said, we want to use that app, the Google app here. So it's an external tool that we've connected to our Canvas account. I'm going to come down here and click External Tool. And it says, where is this tool? And I'm just going to go in there and click Find, and it will pull up the list again. They're alphabetical, so I'm just going to scroll down. And the one that I want now is this newer one. It's called Google Assignments LTI 1.3. I'm going to select that. And you can see it wants to connect to my Google Drive account. So I'm going to let it. So I'm going to say, yep, that's the one. And you can see it's asking me to create my assignment from Google. Okay. And it's got a few neat features. Now, the top one, I wish this was a little bit, I wish they were making this a little bit more accessible to folks, because it's called the Check Plagiarism or the Originality Report. If I turn this on, I just want you to see what it says. It says you only get 3, you get 5 total where you can turn this on, and I've only got a couple left, so I'm not going to use it. You have to become an enterprise Google district in order to get unlimited numbers of those. Maybe you guys can tell me. I don't know where your region's at with that.
Just Washington has that. So,
Okay.
and some of us have the Unicheck. I don't know if Millard has Unicheck or not, which is a different tool in Canvas for doing the same thing.
But I'll just tell you what that does.
Yeah.
When you turn on that check plagiarism, it actually goes through and it scans the document and it scans the web and looks for whether there's something that it finds that looks like the same thing. So it's basically saying, this looks like the student copied and pasted that from someplace, because I was able to do a Google search on it and I found similar text on the web at this location. You can go in and compare those. Now, a lot of times it's not that the kids have plagiarized. Sometimes it's just that they've forgotten to cite their source, right? And so it gives kids options as far as when they get that kind of feedback from the instructor to go in and make those adjustments and cite that source correctly. So that's kind of a neat little feature there, but it's called check plagiarism. But right now it requires one level up of access than we just have with our typical school Google accounts. But I just want to show you this. So if I wanted to add my handout that I've already created, I'm going to come in here and click attach. And again, look what it does. It goes in there and it looks for all my files. Okay. And I say, ooh, I want to make sure I attach my now you try it. There it is. Okay. So I've attached that. Notice what it says over here on the right-hand side. Every student, when I create this assignment, is going to get their own copy of this. So I don't have to worry about permissions and all that kind of stuff that we used to have to worry about and trying to share that out with folks. It's just going to go out to all of them. If you've been someone who's used Google Classroom, you're pretty familiar with this, because this is kind of the format that Google Classroom uses. It just finally became something that we could plug into Canvas. Okay. So you can see I go in there and I make my points and I say, oh yeah, this is worth 10 points. And I set my due date. Okay. And I go in there and I say it's due on Friday the 5th. And I don't want it to be due at 11:59 because then kids are doing homework at midnight on Friday. So I say it's going to be due at 2:59. And I say done. Now, one other little feature that it's got in here that's kind of neat is a rubric tool. And you can see if I click the plus, it lets me create a rubric from scratch, reuse a rubric I've previously created, or import a rubric that I've developed in Sheets. This is kind of one of those dealer's choice. What do you prefer? You can click the create rubric and it just pulls open and it lets you start to put in your descriptions and your criteria and all those great things that you've done in the past when you've created your rubrics before. So you can see as I click that I want to add things, you can, whoops. Sorry about that. So I can go in and create my rubric from scratch right here, or like you saw a moment ago, I can import one from someplace else. So I'm not going to do that right now just for time's sake, but I just wanted you to see. So we'll discard that one. But that's how I can create a rubric. Now, once I create this, that's all done. Okay. I'm gonna
Select.
click that I'm done. I think I was done with that, wasn't I?
I think you have to hit select there.
I'll just do it real quick then. It's grabbed it there.
Okay.
And now I will save this. Now I should do one more thing. Sorry, I should set my due date to make sure it matches. So I would say, oh no, it's not at 11:59. What did I say? It was 2:59. Okay. So we'll set that. And now I will save and publish that.
And you kind of have to match the points in Canvas and Google Assignments right now. It's not perfect, but it's.
But look what it's done now. Yeah. Okay, so it's created that assignment. I'm just going to show you, because I did this a little bit earlier just to save us some time when I come together. I'm going to go in and show you what it looks like now as I start to get students to submit. So here is my student submission here. If I want to click on this and look at it, okay, it goes through now. And I actually used this one a little while ago where I have the originality report. And you can see over there, it says there's no flagged passages on this. I can click on it if I wanted to and show the plagiarism, some of that kind of stuff. But you can just kind of look at that. I'm going to show you the other one because this is kind of fun. I just want you to see what it looks like when you have something that that does have plagiarism. Because I totally use this as an article that I wrote, and it kind of shows you. Let's see if it's going to check the plagiarism on it for me. Sometimes when I did this before, it highlighted like 2 passages and it said, "We found this on the web like 3 times," because it was something that I had pulled from the web deliberately for this. Anyway, looks like it's still checking, so I'm not going to wait for that right now, just because of time's sake. But you can see I can come in here. I can give my score. So let's say, oh yeah, that's worth 98 out of 100. Now, I can save all of this automatically, but look at my option up here at the top. I've got return. I can just return 1 submission, or I can return multiple submissions. So if a student as part of this assignment's got multiple things that they attach to it, you can return all of them to them at one time. Returning it gives them an option potentially to make changes to it, or it just puts it back in their queue so they can see how you kind of scored it and the feedback that you gave them on it. But this is kind of the latest thing that Canvas and Google have kind of connected with each other. And I think this is going to be a really nice tool for you for the future in your Canvas and Google, as far as being able to use your Google Drive and the things that you've already created, but to turn them into assignments that immediately publish those to all of the kids in your classrooms. I think that's
fantastic.
something that you'll really like. So,
and one little caveat, the thing that Jared showed at the beginning, connecting your Google Drive account, your students also need to do that. So just, all together, make sure everyone goes to their profile settings, and then they sign in with their Google Drive account so that they can open and submit their own assignments. So,
well, I wanted to keep you at half an hour, so that is 4:01 on my clock, or 4:02 now, sorry.
But if there's any questions on Canvas, on Google, on anything else, now we have the time for that right now. We appreciate Jared going through that stuff. That's really good stuff. We appreciate it.
We might want to mention the grade pass back on Google assignment. So it will pass back that grade into Gradebook in Canvas, but it won't pass it to SpeedGrader yet. Hopefully we'll see an integration. I don't know,
soon.
Jared, if you've heard anything, maybe by the end of the year, that you'll be able to see this in SpeedGrader like you currently do Google Docs. But these assignments will be in a folder in your drive that you grade from in there.
Yeah, I have not heard an update as far as when that's going to be integrated that way. I know this Friday that we've got Instructure as part of our C form, so that maybe that'll be something we can address and find out about. So
yeah.
But friends, good to spend a half an hour with you. I hope you saw a couple ways that you can connect your Google Drive and your Canvas. So I hope that gives you some things to work on.
Yep. Good job, Jared. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Any questions in the chat, or open up your mics, or anything at all? Stump Jared. I'll give you bonus points. You can stump him.
Oh, there used to be a show
Thanks,
called
Bob.
Stump the Schwab. But he was a sports trivia guy. You want to try that one? I'm better at that than this. So we'll see. But no. Well, thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everybody.